It's been simmering for some time, but this week, debate on the amendment of the Constitution to expunge Article 102 reached fever pitch. This after the government published the Constitution Amendment Bill in the Uganda Gazette, drawing criticism from several corners for stifling democracy and the will of the people. When I interviewed the president in 2012, he was very measured and categorical that he would not offer himself for election beyond the age of 75. Tonight we discuss the fundamental questions on Article 102B and whether it's a matter of when and not if the Constitution will be amended. On the spot tonight is Workers MP Arnaiturwa Kajara, Uganda Women Democracy Network Executive Director Perry Aritua, and the Constitutional Law Don Dr. Daniel Ruhweza. Gentlemen and lady, welcome to the show. All of you are on the spot tonight. If I may begin with you, Dr. Dan Ruhweza, a four-time presidential candidate, Dr. Albert Bwanika, has come out with an idea that let us take the question of the removal of the age limit on the presidency to the people in the form of a referendum. Do you think, as a constitutional lawyer, should we really get even into the discussion of something like this in a young democracy like ours?
Thank you, Patrick. We should. We should get into this discussion, and that's why we're here today. And what better way than how Albert Bwanika is suggesting that every individual Ugandan should have an opportunity to participate in this question. However, I don't think that Ugandans have appreciated the magnitude of what we are talking about. Matters of constitutionalism, like Dr. Kanyihamba said, sometimes are not going to be debated and discussed by everybody. The leadership, everything rises and falls on leadership. The leadership should be able to make a decision. Say, look, this is not a matter that we need to discuss. I personally think that our constitution has put in place a very good measure. We have an age limit, and we should test this age limit. Because the founders of the constitution, the people who discussed it in 1994, had a reason why they discussed it. So before we even debate whether or not we should remove it, I think it would be prudent for us to test whether the reasons for which they placed it in our constitution are justifiable reasons. Test it and see, how does it work? Will it help Ugandans? Because like you've said, ours is a young democracy. And indeed, the debates around constitutionalism need a mature democracy to discuss. I mean, look at the countries that have matured. Do they still have certain conversations? Probably not. And that is not the founders of their leading documents, their grand norm, and have agreed to test the authenticity of those provisions. And many have benefited. But of course it is true that we don't live in a perfect world, but at the same time, if we are talking about stability of a nation, I think we need to be very careful about purported amendments, if at all it is true, and give the provisions that are there an opportunity to be justified. That would be my first take on this issue.
Perry, a referendum would be expensive, but maybe it would give it more legitimacy because every Ugandan would participate through adult suffrage. Would you rather we have it maybe amended through Parliament than the referendum?
I actually don't even... I don't even think we should be having this discussion. Because look, you're talking about a population and a country where elections are usually rigged in a number of instances, and the rigging takes the shape of bribery. It takes the shape of intimidation in a number of areas. Most citizens at times do not have adequate information to be able to make a decision on a huge matter like this, because the age limit remains the only safeguard against life presidency in our constitution. So for me, I think it would be important that we do not even touch that clause. Let's first test it and see whether it poses certain disadvantages. For me, my question has been, when this whole debate began, what is the disadvantage of retaining the term limit, of retaining the age limit? You know, what will we lose as a nation if we remove the age limit from our constitution? And I've not yet had any convincing reasons, because one of the things I know is that laws are made, should be made for posterity, and should not be changed at the whim of an individual. And in this case, I firmly believe that it is going to serve one individual, and that is the current president. So my hope is that Parliament does not even touch that particular clause, because it's a referendum, bearing in mind the context of this country. We know what the results will be.
Honorable Rwakajara, the people who say that members of power, that democracy now, if you go to campaign, money will come in, and then you actually not get the real mandate of the people, because there's bravery, there's intimidation, and there's that. But also that through Parliament, that maybe, with all respect, members of Parliament have a price nowadays. Well, so even if you want to change something through them, it may not really be them representing the voice of the people, but them. I'm saying this because there's a price.
Well, thank you, Kamara. First of all, it is very unfortunate that they can say Parliament has a price, and you can easily bribe them and take a decision depending on what they have given them. First of all, before we enter into that discussion, whether referendum, whether through Parliament, we should first confirm whether there is that amendment. To my best of my knowledge, that amendment is not there, because I know the procedures the government brings amendments. Cabinet has not discussed that issue. I just saw it in papers. So I'm having very big difficulties that I should discuss even this topic. However, Constitution can be amended. If such proposals are brought before Parliament, I believe members of Parliament will deliberate and legislate accordingly. And whether we go to the public for referendum, whether we, as members of Parliament, representatives of people, go back and consult, at the end of the day, we shall get the feelings of the people. It's not individuals that can amend this constitution. The newspapers were proposing a commission. We have not seen the commission, Constitutional Review Commission. So I believe if there are such an amendment, they will go through right channels.
As this debate takes shape, Honorable Rwakajara,
yes,
on which part of the divide do you fall? Do you follow the divide that maybe it's okay to even remove the presidential age limit?
I mean, I told you I represent people. Therefore, my views in Parliament would base on the thinking of the people I represent.
You are a workers MP. You represent me and
yes,
him and her.
I have not consulted you, unfortunately. Did I consult you and you tell me go ahead and amend this, I will do it. comfortable.
But there's an element
However,
there's an element of a leader giving guidance and or giving leadership.
Yes.
And you are a leader. Sometimes you guide your people, you
Yes.
offer leader,
Yes.
you offer guidance. So what guidance would you offer?
First of all, it would be very important we debate.
So it's even a debatable issue.
Oh yes, why not? When you are representing people, you don't dictate your thinking over them. You must sit with them and discuss. If you want to preempt what I would discuss with the people that I represent, I don't see any problem of discussing that matter with the people. And if we agree that we amend the age limit, we will comfortably amend it.
Doctor,
However, before Doctor, to me we have seen leaders that go beyond 70 years. Recently, America elected a president at 72 years. And if all goes well, he's going to serve 2 terms. He will be 78 years of age.
yeah, the constitution, their constitution allows.
Actually, 80. Their constitution allows them to serve 2 terms. So, the example that I'm giving you, the man is likely to leave power when he's 80. And others. So, I cannot say we should not open it. I think it is a debatable issue. And if we discuss and agree, that's it. After all, this is a democracy. Whether you call it young or old, we have been doing our things in the democratic way, and we shall have results in democratic way.
Dr. Reza, is this debate and this to remove the age limit likely to be one of the greatest litmus tests for Uganda's democracy?
Well, I don't think so. My view is that we have already been tried and tested, or as they say in the Bible, we've been weighed, we've been measured, and we've been found wanting. The age limit is, in my view, whether we discuss it now or then, I have a very strong feeling that it's going to come. I'm not a prophet, but I have a very strong feeling based on my appreciation of the kind of country that we are and the way we do business. The discussion that has begun now, anybody who's done a little bit of history of our nation and the way we do things, we start by throwing a stone in the bush to find out what is coming, what is there. And after you realize, you're testing. You know, this conversation you're having is a test. What do the people think? You know, what is it the right time to bring it up or not? No, so the conversation has begun. Actually, the matter is before us. But our constitution was unfortunately messed up in 2005 when we removed the presidential term limits, among other things. So right now we are really dealing with the aftermath of something that was already messed up. And therefore, I do not think that whatever we do from today is going to be measured in such high proportion. That measurement was done in 2005 and we are found wanting. We should have left the 1995 Constitution to run a longer period of time. We should have seen a smooth handover of power. You know, there are certain things we should have seen, we should have rejoiced. Uganda has not had the benefit of a peaceful transfer of power compared to Kenya and Tanzania. Even the people that Honorable is talking about, that he will consult, need to be guided. You know, I'm a lecturer. I have to guide my students into what I think, as their lecturer, should be the way forward, based on my experience and on my reading. So the leader that he is, I think he should be comfortable to go to speak to his people and say, this is the way forward, this is the way we should go. And whether they agree with him or not is another thing, but he should be comfortable enough to say, I've come to consult you, but these are my views. If you don't agree with my views and you think something else, it's okay, because I'm your representative. I will state what it is that you want me to say. However, I think the way to go would be this way. Let me just add one more thing. I do not think we are able now to clearly gauge the feelings of the people. For anybody who has studied the voting patterns that Perry has been talking about, I don't think we are still able to say that we know what the feelings of the people are. You need to take serious ethnographic studies to be able to understand what people think and what their priorities are. I am very sure that people's priority is not in the age or term limits. Their priorities may be in the bread and butter issues. So whether this comes now or later on, I think people are more concerned about what will I eat, do I have a job, and so on and so forth. Their feelings about whether or not we should remove the age limit are influenced by other factors. Demographics, these are young people, you saw with the Bobi Wine election. The state of the economy influences the way people vote. The kind of message that is placed before them. The type of question, if it's a referendum, how do you phrase your question? If you say bagende or basigare, you know, should they stay, should they go? You know, that will influence the way they vote. So, unfortunately, people need to be guided by their leaders.
Perry, is this our toughest political question? The toughest political question in our generation? How we answer it? Remove or not remove, in your view?
I think it will have implications, because right now this country is actually experiencing the effects of the removal of the term limits. The issues dealing with accountability, because it's proven that when leaders overstay in power, there are certain things that go wrong, because power corrupts. Now, even the example given by Honorable Rwakajara about Trump, America actually has term limits. So they are very certain that Trump's 2 terms, whether he wins the second term or not, he will not rule for 31 years. You know, so I just wanted also to just mention a few of the effects. One is accountability reduces. Secondly, any normal human being runs out of ideas after a certain period of time. And then you are also putting a cap on people's ambitions. I'm sure there are young people in this country who one day see themselves as president of this country. Now, you're dealing with a situation where an incumbent has a lot of power. You know, the president has a lot of power in this country. That's why even for simple decisions, people want the president to come in.
But the people of Kyadondo, even though he was not on the ballot, have shown us that, well, democracy succeeded in Kyadondo East.
You see why?
He went, he campaigned for his candidate, Kantindi, and he lost miserably.
And that's why it's important to look at the context of that election. One, it was an election in a more or less urban area. Most people in urban areas are more informed. You know, they will take decisions more seriously in terms of what they want. The rural population is not the same. The other thing I also wanted to say about when one stays in power for too long is you create a system of patronage. Uganda suffers from patronage, where people support a cause not because it's good for Uganda, but what do they gain out of it. Yesterday, there was a clip by NTV of one of the MPs from West Nile, you know, saying that there are 3 conditions that he has shared with some of the opposition MPs, and so far they have met 2. You know, how you cheapen a country to that level because of your personal needs as an individual, for me, is sad. So that's why, for many of us, we are asking, what is the disadvantage of keeping the age limit in our constitution? If someone can convince us, bearing in mind the effects of removal of term limits on this country, then we can have a debate. So,
Honorable Rwakajara, if an issue comes to Parliament for let's say for voting, how are we sure really that it's you representing the consent of the people and not a bought consent?
But you see, Kamala, really, it's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate an individual to stand somewhere and you assume that people have decided because of influence, maybe by buying them or something. It's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate to assume that rural people don't understand what they want. It's very unfortunate to think that representatives of the people, they can be bought easily like that.
But there's precedent.
So, already on social media, there are things circulating all over. That Chief Whip has 3 billion, so and so has this, so and so has this. There is no anything like an amendment. To be honest, let's be sincere. We are just speculating. There is nothing. But they are already talking that there is money in saturation. Very ashaming statement.
But the Perry is telling you there's a precedent to that.
Which precedent?
5 million given to MPs in the 7th Parliament. There is precedent and it's on record. They received 5 million to remove the term limit.
You see, look, I was not in that Parliament. But honestly, Parliament has activities, like how any TV can have an activity. If there is an incident in Igang, and possibly they want to facilitate staff to go there and cover the news and everything. Parliament, sometimes there are sensitization programs that come up, maybe on a certain program, and they send in the field. But when they hear that they have facilitated members of Parliament, then they will add on and say they have done ABCD. We normally consult our constituencies. You cannot do anything before you consult. When you are sent to the field to consult and they call it buying, it is very unfortunate. And people should be sensitive when they are talking. For example, people are confidently saturating messages that there is money in saturation. For what? So, let's not always assume and legitimize this thinking, and we publicize it and say it in public. Let's be very sensitive. And it is very unfortunate that we are discussing this instead of discussing other issues that affect our people. This is not an issue that is affecting our people right now as we talk, because there is no amendment as we talk. If it comes, as the doctor said, why don't we wait and it comes, then we discuss it? But you start in this year, what if it comes now in 2020? But we have started now, instead of using this time to discuss other issues that are affecting our people, we are discussing something that is in speculation. However, I want to assure you that members of Parliament, these are our brothers and our fathers, whom we respect in our community. When they enter that house, then those ones who have now expertise in spoiling the names of members of Parliament, maybe opponents and others, they start. But when Kamara today, if you enter that Parliament, you will be a thief. If Doctor today enters that Parliament, he will be abandoned in that. But when he's still this side, he's safe, he's okay, he's a good person. So let's be
so the image.
Let's respect our institution.
So what is that supposed to mean?
Maybe just to answer, Honorable, I'm a lecturer at Makerere. There is a lot of media reports about sex for marks at Makerere University, right? And there are indeed cases where lecturers have been accused and even faced disciplinary action. If you go to the Staff Appeals Tribunal, you'll hear some of these stories where ladies have said that it is true, that you've seen pictures. So, when someone comes up and says lecturers have the benefit of feasting on their young students, they are not entirely wrong to say so. It is unfortunate that it is said of me who is not doing it. But the fact that I have that tag, I unfortunately have to bear the blame because I belong to the group. All right? Does this mean that every lecturer is a sexual predator? No.
Yeah, but
in the same regard,
but honestly,
even with members of parliament, honorable, if I may say,
yes,
if you only read the jurisprudence from the cases of corruption, of bribery, of intimidation, where people are actually dishonorable in the way they do things, okay? And indeed it has been proven that people have taken money and have used it to either purchase items in order to influence a vote. And for that reason, their elections have been cancelled.
Yeah.
In some cases, they have proven the case that indeed bribery happened. But then the second question has been, was the bribery so much that it could have substantially affected the election? And the courts have decided, no, it wasn't. But does it mean it did not happen? No. It does not mean it did not happen. It did happen. So in Parliament today, if we are very honest with ourselves, you and I know that there are certain people in Parliament who are not as honest as some of you, who have indeed given bribes.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay.
And you gave a very good example.
Yes.
You gave a very good example. So should we declare degrees of Makerere? 6 degrees?
Some of them are.
No.
Isn't it?
Yes. No. Do you want to declare degrees of Makerere, 6 degrees?
I think what he's trying to say that
our decision
at some point we need to honor.
Yes,
I think that's what he's trying to say.
You see, that if there is a corrupt person in Parliament, it does not mean that all decisions that are taken in Parliament are influenced by bribery.
All right, we're going to take a break.
We should not agree that in Makerere, the whole institution
we're going to take a break.
offers 6 degrees.
All right.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, and that's not what
Gentlemen and ladies,
So
let's take a break. And also, let me remind you of, I think there's a proverb, I think in Buganda, which talks about the man who eats, is it the langfish? I think it's called the langfish, remember? He spoils the image. He spoils the image of the entire clan. Let's take a break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On The Spot. My name is Patrick Amar. My guests tonight are Dr. Weza, Ms. Perry Aritura, and Honorable Arnetwe Rwakajara. Okay, so as far as we stand now, really, the bill is not yet before Parliament. But I wanted us to negotiate, navigate this through at least what is on record. That if a 4-time presidential candidate has come out to say, you know what, let us go to the people and have a referendum and ask them to remove or not to remove the presidential age limit. Perry, if I may begin with you in this segment. We know very well that, well, for 31 years, President Museveni and the NRM have held Uganda with some kind of peace and stability and relative development. And really, when you look into his own group, with all the respect, you don't see somebody emerging out like who can steer who can captain the ship. So do we gamble that stability and the peace of this country by trying out anybody not tested?
Maybe let's reflect on instances where some people have tried to stand with the current president. What has happened to them? At times they have been told, no, he deserves another term, and so the people sort of shy away. And for me, it's unfortunate, because one of the things that good leaders do is to groom successors. Because at the end of the day, we are human beings, we die. So what happens when you, who has not groomed someone, dies? What happens to the institution? So for me, it's...
What is this thing grooming you're talking about?
Grooming is about giving people an opportunity. Like, for instance, that's why I'm saying let's look at precedent of where certain people have tried to stand in the NRM. What has happened to them? There was the Honorable Felix Ogong. There are things that I think could have been done differently. Like, let them stand, let them campaign. Don't say we have a sole candidate. Because one of the things that political parties do is to ensure that they churn out leadership. Now, what is unfortunate, at times that opportunity is not there. And that's one of the problems that we face as a country due to the removal of term limits. Because then those who are in power overshadow those who would want to aspire. One, they have access to a number of resources, So even to stand, you're wondering, where do I get the money? In a state like this where you at times voters expect a bribe to vote, you know. So there are still a number of challenges, and that's why for me I really hope that the president keeps to his word when you interviewed him, and, you know, just says, let's test this constitution, let's retain the age limit, let's give an opportunity to someone, you know. And it's normal, people fear change, but change is part of life, you know.
Honorable Rakajara, President Museveni admired quite well Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, and when he came to power, Nyerere was president, and there came Hassan Mwinyi, there came Benjamin Mkapa, there came Jakaya Kikwete, now we have Pombe Magufuli, and President Museveni is still there. Probably, has he not picked some of the lessons of the man he admires?
Well, you see, you people, you say things, but you don't want them to work. You talk of democracy, and if you are to define democracy, then you allow people to decide. That's my humble understanding. Now, if the man, we have not missed any election after 5 years. Not at all.
That's Uganda.
We go to the polls. And by the way, Kamara, sometimes I watch things and just laugh. I worked with the Electoral Commission.
Yes, you did.
Fortunately, I know how we used to conduct our elections.
Tell us.
You would see the winner winning. You would see the loser losing. Genuinely.
At what
As a supervisor. You would see the winner winning, the loser losing. So I want to categorically declare here that the time I was in Electoral Commission, I would see President Museveni win. And how do you see? As someone who is in a Electoral Commission is counting ballot papers from the box.
But then, okay, just
and the processes are very well.
Just 1 year back, how do you account for the fact that
now
in the opposition, more or less stronghold, electoral materials reach the polling stations at 2 p.m.?
No, you see, Kamara.
Yes, I mean,
Kamara.
No,
Kamara.
but this is what I saw.
Kamara.
That was shambolic.
Those are logistic issues.
Logistic?
Yes.
Even if somebody walked with a box,
those are logistic issues that does not influence the change of the mind of the voter. Whether I vote early in the morning at 8 or at 4, I'm the same.
But what if you don't vote
and that
at
does
all?
not influence.
Yeah, but
results.
Who tells you that somebody is going to be in the line for 10 hours?
You see, at least we have been having voters in the line. After actually tonight, would stop at 5. People would vote up to 9. Because that is the law. Now, look here.
So the Electoral Commission you worked for,
yes,
even what happened in Kampala a year ago,
yes,
is a manifestation of an efficient, well-oiled machine.
No, you see, Kamara, let's not assume, even I think in every country, those hiccups are always there. It is like when you say you are starting your car, you are heading to Jinja, and for you say, always I reach there in time and I can't get any problem on the way. Honestly, you be sincere. This is a logistical issue that can happen anywhere, and it has happened anywhere, by the way. Well, I've been an observer of elections in other countries. I chair the Committee of Peace and Security of Great Lakes. By the way, I may not say this, but I've not seen effective elections properly arranged like Ugandans.
Okay.
But when you have not moved, unfortunately, you may think, and of course the other attitude I told you of Ugandans, everything in Uganda is bad.
No, Mr. Kamara, let me just respond to Honorable. First of all, let's not assume that all Ugandans see only bad things in the nation. No. Ugandans see good things as well, and they appreciate them. Yeah. However, there is a reason as to why an assumption of corruption is given, or is made, or is taken. Because people view, let's not think that people do not see and do not make up their minds from what they see. They make assumptions, and some of these assumptions are not from the sky. They are able to even prove why they think the way they do. Okay? 2, democracy does not work in a vacuum. Right? Democracy does not work in a vacuum. That's why you need each and everybody. 1, you need information. Before I go to vote, I need to be informed of how do I vote, why should I vote, what should be in my mind as I cast my vote. Am I voting because someone is my tribesmate, or I'm voting because of the promises or the line of action that the candidate I'm voting for has taken? Am I voting because if I don't vote, then the repercussions are terrible, and that the best thing for me to do is to vote for this particular candidate so that I can benefit from certain things? So you need to understand some of the issues that make people vote even in a certain way, all right? Even those people who vote for you, you have to be careful that sometimes they vote for you not because you have the best plan, but either because you happen to share certain other...
Or because they are voting against somebody.
Or they are voting against someone. Okay? That is the thing. Let's not assume that. Now, the other thing I want to say, we need to be in a situation whereby we are able to analyze, even to be critical of our own systems. Being critical does not mean we don't appreciate. No. Being critical is because we want more. You know, when we did the amicus curiae application, okay?
When you succeed, you appreciate.
Yes, no, we actually do. When things go right.
We even gave you the example of Bobby Wine. Okay? So, when we did the amicus curiae application, one of the things we are asking for was that we need better systems. People need to be educated. Okay? Amendments to the laws on election should be made in a certain time frame. Okay? People who speak on behalf of candidates must not be at the same time employees in the public service. You know, we made specific recommendations which the court agreed to, okay, because they could see that at the end of the day, we are going to remain in a vicious cycle of litigation where people are saying, the election has been stolen because of what they see. And you see, whatever you do, you must have public confidence. For us in justice, we say, justice must not only be done.
It must be seen.
It must be seen to be done. If you bring my ballot box at 4 p.m.,
I know.
5 p.m.,
and I've been in
and
the
I
line
am in the line since morning, but the ballot box for people in Sekaramoja arrive on time, okay? I begin to form a certain mindset.
Yeah.
Then, unfortunately, someone then tells you that much as you have voted, we did not count your vote. Because in any case, the thing has already what? Been done. You know, at the end of the day, someone moves away saying, you know what, my vote after all does not even matter. Okay? So, even when we talk about the referendum, Mr. Kamara, a referendum is putting to the public specific questions. But you need to appreciate that even that public you're talking to answer those questions must be in a certain time frame that appreciates these questions you're putting to this public.
Okay.
Yeah? So if the public does not understand, and let us not run away from the truth, good enough the internet is available for us to read the case law. There are candidates who have cheated by buying votes. They give you money so that you vote in a certain way. There are testimonies of people who have said, we are going to give you our money, but we shall follow you to ensure that you vote for the candidate that we want. And so at the end of the day, much as on the face of it, what we say, prima facie, it looks okay, the truth of the matter is we have challenges.
Okay. Perry, at the very beginning, when we're talking about this issue of removing the possible removal of the age limits, somehow it worries you.
Yeah.
Why would it?
It worries me because that's the only provision left to guard against life presidency. And I already said Uganda is suffering the effects of removal of term limits. I don't even know whether I should repeat what I said. But for me, one of the things that I keep saying, and particularly to young people, they are wondering what new ideas can come out of the state in which we are. Why don't we just give someone an opportunity? The Constitution says we will have age limit at 75. Someone does not stand. I actually don't even see why we're grappling with should we change, should we not. Let's just retain it. Let another person try leading Uganda. But first of all, it's a service, to be in public leadership, but like the Honorable Kajaras. It's service.
I can imagine there are people who are like, we don't want just to try anybody. We just don't want to test anybody. We want somebody who is tried and tested and measured and to steer this country forward, not necessarily to try. Because there are matters of peace and stability. There are matters of life and death in some ways.
That is true, and that's why...
But the reverse argument could be that if you open this gap, and the next leader comes in and takes benefit of these gates that you have opened ajar to the detriment of the people, then what do? That is why you put certain safeguards in place. Things like the separation of powers. You don't do it because you think whoever is in a position of authority is a big problem. But you do it for the sake of that day. When the wolf, if there is a wolf, will come to attack the sheep, you want to be sure that there are gates that protect the sheep. Otherwise, you would never need to have a fence or a gate. You would not need a constitution if you think that people do not need to be governed in a specific way. But you say, first of all, we are a republic. Then you say that power belongs to the people, who shall express it in a specific way. And the people have decided how that specific way is going to be done. But even before you test that thing, you have removed it. My fear is, tomorrow if you have a dictator, what happens? What happens when this person says, first of all, there are no term limits, I'll rule for life. Secondly, there is no age limit, I'll rule for life. What about your son and my daughter and my cousin, who also want a taste of this chair? To be able to make their contribution as leaders. You're basically telling them that until that person has died by God's grace, you will never have an opportunity. And I think that is wrong. For a democracy, if it is an autocracy, that is different. Now, in a democracy, I think we should be speaking a different language, Mr. Kamara.
Gentlemen and lady, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I'll open the line so that you too, where you are, you can call and tell us what you think and give us your contribution on the discussion that we're having tonight. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Welcome back, gentlemen and lady. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Kamara. My guests tonight are Honorable Arneto Kajara, Perry Altua, and Dr. Dan Ruweza. So, what as a country, Perry says that the only remaining safety what?
Safeguard.
Safeguard.
So life presidency is the retention of that.
But if he's been around for 31 years and here we are, we can talk, we can hound him, we can harass, we can do whatever. What has happened? So,
for me, it's not even about the hounding, but it's about certain principles. Because when the NRM came into power, one of the fundamentals that they swore to protect was democracy. And one of the things that they did was to ensure that we have a new constitution. That's why in 1995, prior to 1995, there was the Odoki Commission. They went around asking for our views as citizens. And those views informed the 1995 constitution. And one of the views was that let's have age limit because of our history. We have never had a transfer of power peacefully. All our presidents have been changed either through a coup, which is unfortunate. So one of the things that the Constitution did by putting that particular provision was thinking about stability of this country, looking at our history and saying that time should come where one president is able to peacefully hand over power. It's funny that even countries like China, which are communists, they also they change presidents because ideas, new leaders come with new ideas, and when you get older, your energy levels reduce. And that's one of the things the president admitted too, you know. So we are saying that we have seen the effects of removal of term limits. Let's give our president rest. Let him rest, you know, so that he can contribute to this country differently. There are a number of presidents former presidents, who are either UN envoys, they come and monitor elections. You know, they are contributing to their countries, even with more energy because they have more time. But our president has served this country. And we are saying there are things he has done which we as Ugandans appreciate. The fight against HIV/AIDS, you know, the stability that this country enjoys. And we are saying, look, you have done your part, you know. Just do the one thing. Hand over power peacefully. Let's not tinker with the age limit. Let's leave it in our constitution so that by then he'll even be celebrated more, because that's one thing that this country has never tested.
I think I agree with my sister.
Let me just add something before you come in. You know, the preamble to our constitution is something we often forget to read. But the preamble states that the people who made the constitution were cognizant of the history of our nation, where we came from, the challenges that we had, and they were committed to giving the people of Uganda a constitution that would help us.
Not to go back.
Not to go back, yes. And anybody who is a reader of history knows where we have been. And also appreciates, like Perry has said, the immense contribution of our current president. Okay? But we are saying we have to move forward.
Yeah.
Let's not go back to where we were.
That's true.
But let's move forward in establishing and strengthening institutions. Honorable talked about Trump being president. But you see, those who've been following Trump know that there are certain things Trump has been trying to do. But because of the institutions in the United States of America that are strong, that you can't play around with, he's been put in check. But for us here in Uganda, many of the times we are talking about we need to rebuild institutions. Okay? If we don't have those institutions, who will check the next leader? When we've opened up all the gates, that is where we need to be cautious.
Honorable, in the NRM camp, if I may ask, or among your leaders, is there such a discussion of a transition of somebody maybe who could take over? Now, considering in 3 years' time, President Museveni will not be eligible to stand for presidency again, do you, as leaders now, do you have that kind of discussion?
Actually, every 5 years, we have this discussion. And choose not only one leader, we choose different leaders in the party.
You ring fence the one position?
No.
That's what I know.
You see, whether you call it ring fence or whatever, but we have always sat and discussed and said we bring him or not. And at the end of the day, the answer has been we bring him back. So every 5 years, we have this discussion. There is no question about it.
Yeah, but you know, in that...
And I want to agree with my sister.
But you know, in
wait.
In this term, things are different because you have a constitutional challenge that the person who is like your winning formula, that your winning team is not eligible to continue. Now...
It is okay. We shall have that time and sit and discuss. Whether we bring another person or we amend. I don't want to rule it out. I don't want to rule it out. I don't want to rule it out. If we see as a party that is our #1 scorer and still has ability to achieve, to spearhead our manifesto, then we can bring him back.
So that is...
We shall request Ugandans to support us. Amend
it's a very sad indictment on NRM.
However, I want to support my sister. Her views of thinking the leader we have now can be assigned other duties, serve in different capacities. That is her thinking, honestly. And I like that. However, we must give all Ugandans a chance to bring their opinion. Whether they still actually want him to serve again in the same capacity or not. Now, my sister her thinking is very clear.
Okay, let me
and that
open
is
the
very
lines.
good. Yes.
Before Perry, you
Yes.
come, let me
Yeah.
open the lines
Yes.
and we hear what Ugandans are saying tonight, because my producer is telling me we have quite a number of people who would want to contribute to the discussion. So let me take the very first caller online. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Kamara.
What's your name and where are you calling from, sir?
My name is Akampa Rugabata Albul.
Yes.
I'm calling from Rukunjiri.
Okay, you are on air, sir.
Yes. I would want to say I've grown up in the NRM government,
Okay.
being led by President Yoweri Museveni.
Okay.
And the feeling that I have is that majority of the young people have lost hope. And so it is high time for the old guards who came from Ruero to prepare a new Uganda, so that at the end of the day we are able to address challenges, the new challenges that have come, where we have unemployment not because our economy is doing badly, but because we don't have functional, independent systems and institutions. Everything has been personalized to Museveni. It is Museveni who delivers everything in each and every area. So we are thinking that if Museveni gets to retire, then we are able to even create better Uganda. And he can be there. We are not saying he's useless. He's going to be useless. We are saying let's have him guide the new government led by people who did not even go to Ruero. We are saying that challenges of today cannot be addressed by the people who went to Ruero, because their elephant that time was peace and security. Now that they have restored peace, can we have unemployment, which is a new challenge? Can we have now cyber security is also a challenge? How do we mobilize to build Uganda as a nation?
Okay.
And I want to call the members of parliament. Yes, you are likely to be used to sell your conscience again and remove or even open the age limit, but you know you're selling the next Uganda of 20, 30 years. And Honorable Wakajara, for you might not than majority of us, the young Ugandans, but we are saying if we want to build Uganda as a nation, let's leave the age limit at 75. And this goes to all the honorable members of parliament. That
Okay, we have a problem now, unfortunately, with the line from Rukunjiri, but at least we had most of the things that you said that were pretty clear. And let me take another call online. Hello. No, let me pick another. I have another call online. Hello. Hello.
yes,
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Muyenga. I'm called Chairman Yasin of Muyenga.
Chairman Yasin, you're on air, sir.
Yes, sir.
Go on.
Hello? Yes. Now, my concern is there is a petition, a pending petition before the Constitutional Court, application number 43 of 2016, about the age limit of politicians and mandatory retirement of civil servants. Now, I don't know whether it is sub judice to discuss this matter when there is a pending petition before the Constitution. You may not be aware, we'll forgive you for that because I'm the lead petitioner. But to discuss about the age limit, I think it's not very important in Uganda now because we have periodic elections. You see, once you have periodic elections, it means that there is an opportunity for the community, for the residents, the voters, to change leadership. So if you don't want a leader, whether he is or she is old, above 70 or 75, you can still replace the leader. So that should not be a problem. But what is more important is look at the civil servants who are excluded at the age of 60. Doctors, lecturers, police officers,
yet they can still give experience. So there is a petition on this. In fact, this debate should not go on. Let's give a chance to the courts to decide whether it is inconsistent, and then maybe Parliament or the community referendum can take place later on. Thank you very much.
Okay, but we also have a presidential candidate who is going around to ask for a referendum on the issue of the removal of the age limit. So from that angle, we can discuss this matter. But deeply, we can get into this issue because we have even a constitution lawyer right here. But let me take maybe 2 more callers so that we can get back to the studio and we respond to your questions and queries. I have a call online. Hello. Hello.
Hello. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Good evening, Mr. Kamala.
Good evening.
My name is David. Hello. Good evening, Mr. Kamala.
Good evening, sir. Davis, I can hear you. Just go right ahead.
I'm calling from Gulu. That's where I am now.
Okay.
My greetings to the guests in the studio. I want just to put this debate straight to the concerned Ugandans that whatever we are discussing and whatever comes around, it's just to discuss and then it goes around. Just nothing will happen. The age limit, it has come up, it will go untouched. And then what I just want to ask Ugandans that this is the time we need to develop the hard spirit to fight for our country. This is a country where we have ministers who can sign documents and says, I just signed. I didn't know that I was signing such a document. This is a country where we have impunity in dealings. Just have a case of the Sandy Gajere. What happened? It just went like that. You know? So we have to stand, those concerned Ugandans, we have to come up and now we say enough is enough. Whatever going in our country, we have to fight to get back our country online. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. A caller there calling from Gulu. Let me take the very last caller online. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Yes, Patrick.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
You are talking with Patrick Murungi from Bundubujo.
Patrick Murungi in Bundubujo, you're on air, sir.
Yes, I just wanted to comment, to make a supplement on what the Honorable said.
Yes.
Removing the age limit does not mean that it has guaranteed that it is the President Museveni to come back. Ugandans should know that there could be another person, either in NRM or in any other party, who could be willing to stand above the age limit. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay. You've listened to the callers. If I can begin with you, Perry, your response to
the call. I'll start with the last one. You see, it's important for viewers to have this discussion in context, because I, for one, can guarantee that if the age limit is removed, as Honorable Rwakajara already admitted, their best player is still the incumbent, you know. So they need to give him an opportunity to rest. And if we retained that, then they would have that opportunity to look for other people who can offer themselves for leadership, even from NRM, you know.
So you want to tell group members of a team that your best candidate should rest?
Yeah, let him rest, because the constitution right now says
I'm saying,
rest.
Yeah, if it is amended
at
through
75. No, you see the thing with Uganda, processes are amended at times not for the benefit of this nation, but for the benefit of an individual. And that's why we are saying that laws are made for posterity. They are just not made to benefit an individual. They should be made to benefit Uganda. And in this case, because of what we have seen in the past, it is being made to benefit an individual, which in my perspective should not be the case, because the incumbency usually has more privileges and opportunities. So when presented with an opportunity where there are no age limits and the majority of the NRM are saying you are still our best player, of course they are going to keep him there. And we are saying that when you reach a certain age, he himself admitted, the president said, you get tired, the ideas become stale. We need new blood for this country. We need new ideas. And I think one of the callers admitted that some of the challenges now are not the same challenges that our president had when he became leader in 1986. Things have changed. So let's have another one. Let's give them an opportunity so that they're able to take Uganda to a different level. And you know, I always wonder why people say, oh, we fear. But change is part of our lives. We have to learn to move on. Other countries have moved on, not only outside the continent, but within the continent. Our neighbors, Kenya, you know, they have been able to move on with not so much stress as we are thinking, because most people worry, oh, there will be no peace. But we have one of the best armies in this region. You know, it has proved itself to be one which has character and which can sustain this country in terms of peace. So why the worry, for me, is really my question. Let's continue to strengthen our institutions so that we do not have this discussion. Part of this discussion we're having is because some of our institutions are not functioning the way they do. So people worry, if the president goes, what will happen to this country? But if our institutions were strong, then people would be able to say, you know what, this one will take over power and things will go on. One time I watched the time when Gordon Brown was leaving Downing Street, and he just walked away with his children, and new prime minister came in. Some of those are the things that we need as a country, because our constitution has provided for that. You know.
Well, I want to thank the callers. Honestly, the issue of whether someone came from Luwero or did not come from Luwero, we are looking for leaders. And I reach a time and I accept, whether it's from my generation or another generation, we need a leader who can put us together and move as a country. It's because I'm in a certain age bracket, I should advocate for a certain age bracket. We need a leader who can take us ahead. Two, the issue of NRM or President Museveni should groom someone. There is no doubt this government has groomed not one leader, leaders. But I think people think they should mention that Rwakajara is the next president. No. You see, before me here, a young doctor, I believe a PhD holder, well-groomed, he looks a man of character. Therefore, if he becomes a president, and that is grooming, that the government has created an environment of people getting exposed, educated, healthy, that their health is strong, and their mind are sober, they can think, they can do everything. This government and President Museveni, they have not groomed one. My young sister here, I'm told, is a lawyer. She can lead any organization or this country. So grooming, I don't think is just mentioning a person that is the one to take over. And you know, when we must be careful when we're using these words. Democracy. How can the country be democratic? And you start mentioning so and so is the leader. Who are you to mention that? It is the people of Uganda to decide, and many candidates have stood. They have contested. Right up from LC1 to top office. Recently, how many candidates did we have for presidential? Charia, Mabirizi, others. People took their time, went to the polling station, casted their ballot papers. And that is what I understand as a democracy.
Okay.
If you start playing around, and you bring in your feelings, then you are losing the point. Allow people to decide on what they want. That's democracy, I think.
Dr.
Right.
Rweza, and by the way, we are coming to the end of the show. So, Dr. Rweza, you're passing short.
Once again, I would like to state that the demographics of our nation are such that we have very young population, probably one of the youngest populations in the world. My friend, Professor Chris Mbazira, is probably 40, 41. He's just become the acting principal of Makerere University's law school, the president of France, you know, and all these other European leaders are in their 40s or mid-40s. The demographics has changed, and we should not ignore that. And therefore, even the kind of leader that we need should be that person who is not too far and yet not too young from the demographics of the specific nation. And that is what we are talking about today. There is no sane human being on earth today, specifically in Uganda, who does not appreciate the beautiful contribution that President Museveni has made. Yes, there are criticisms. For all leadership, there will be a criticism. However, I think it's important for us now that President Museveni helps the nation. Okay? And I think he knows this already, and begins to put in place a process of transition. The same that Lee Kuan Yew did. Specific things that create the impression in our nation that President Museveni is leading a transition into a new dispensation. And that is the reality of our times. We cannot run away from it. Otherwise, we run the risk of being placed at a disadvantage. So this discussion, in my view, is timely. Okay? If it is not going to happen, the fact that we have views beginning, the newspapers are beginning to report about this, means that Ugandans are aware of this discussion. Yes, Ugandans will, at the end of the day, put a ballot. But that is only where a referendum has been approved. That is only where members of parliament act wise enough to give other Ugandans that opportunity to do so. But more importantly, like I've said in the beginning, democracy does not operate in a vacuum, Patrick. And let's not be fooled that because I have cast my vote, that I have exercised the democratic right. No, it is much more important. It's much more than that. How much have I been prepared? What education have I been given? What is even my general mindset? What is my financial capital? How much money do I have? How much education do I have? Because the decision you make to choose a leader as an educated woman is different from the decision that a non-educated woman makes in choosing the leaders that they have. So let us not over-glorify democracy and think that it is this kind of silver bullet that solves all things. No, Honorable. It does not. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Daniel Rweza. Thank you very much, Perry. And thank you very much, Honorable Arnaitwe Rwakajara. And for all of you who have been a part of this, I'm sure this discussion is going to continue up to 2021 because it's one of the major issues of our times, of our generation, to see how we move forward, how we forge ahead. No matter what happens, we need this country together, peaceful and moving forward, because it is in our interest to at least remain in peace. Good night, and God bless Uganda.